There is a small window of time after every meal when the body is deciding its future. Not in a dramatic way, not with noise or pain, but silently, molecule by molecule, blood sugar begins to rise, insulin is called into action, and the muscles wait for a signal. For many people over 50 living with diabetes, this moment feels out of control, as if the body has become an unpredictable stranger. But the truth is gentler than that. The body is still listening, and one of the simplest ways to speak to it is to stand up and walk. When we walk after a meal, something remarkable happens beneath the skin. Muscles begin to contract, and those contractions open tiny doors on the muscle cells, allowing glucose to enter without demanding extra insulin. This is not force, it is cooperation. The body prefers movement to medication whenever it can, especially as we age. Walking becomes a quiet conversation between blood and muscle, saying, "I will help you carry this load." As we grow older, insulin sensitivity naturally declines, not as a failure, but as a biological shift. Walking restores part of that sensitivity, not by pushing the body harder, but by reminding it of a rhythm it evolved to follow. Our ancestors did not sit after eating, they moved slowly, thoughtfully. Walking after meals is not a modern hack, it is a return to biological memory. There is also something deeply calming about this practice. Stress hormones like cortisol can raise blood sugar, just as surely as food can. A gentle walk lowers that stress response, steadying both mind and metabolism. The nervous system relaxes, digestion improves, and the body stops bracing for danger. Health, in this sense, becomes less about control and more about trust. Over time, these small walks reshape more than glucose levels. They protect joints by keeping them fluid, strengthen the heart without strain, and restore confidence in the body's ability to heal. For diabetics over 50, walking after meals is not about burning calories. It is about guiding energy to where it belongs, again and again with patience. This is why walking after meals is not just exercise. It is a form of respect for the body's intelligence, a reminder that healing often begins not with intensity, but with consistency. One step, taken at the right moment, can change the entire conversation inside you. When we talk about blood sugar, we often imagine it as something abstract, a number on a screen, a reading taken before breakfast or 2 hours after a meal. But inside the body, blood sugar is not a number. It is energy in transit, moving through the bloodstream, searching for a place to go. After a meal, especially one containing carbohydrates, glucose enters the blood and waits for permission to leave. For many people with diabetes over 50, that permission depends heavily on insulin, a hormone that may no longer work as smoothly or efficiently as it once did. This is where walking quietly changes the story. Skeletal muscle is the largest organ in the human body, and it is also the greatest consumer of glucose. Yet muscle does not absorb sugar simply because it exists. It needs a signal. Insulin is one signal, but it is not the only one. Muscle contraction itself is another, and it is a powerful one. When you begin to walk after a meal, even at a gentle pace, your muscles contract rhythmically. This contraction activates pathways inside the muscle cells that move glucose transporters to the cell surface, creating open gateways for sugar to enter directly from the bloodstream. What makes this process so important for diabetics is that it works independently of insulin. This means the body does not need to produce more insulin, nor does it need insulin to work perfectly in order to lower blood sugar. The muscles simply take what they need. It is a beautifully efficient system, one that evolved long before modern diets and sedentary lifestyles disrupted it. Walking reawakens this ancient mechanism without strain or force. As we age, insulin resistance often increases. Cells become less responsive to insulin's signal, not because they are broken, but because years of inactivity, inflammation, and metabolic stress have dulled their sensitivity. The pancreas responds by producing more insulin, which can lead to fatigue of the system over time. Walking after meals interrupts this cycle. By allowing muscles to absorb glucose directly, it reduces the burden placed on insulin in the pancreas, giving the entire metabolic system a moment of relief. There is also a timing element that makes walking after meals uniquely effective. Blood sugar rises most sharply in the first 30 to 60 minutes after eating. Sitting still during this period allows glucose to remain in the bloodstream longer, increasing the likelihood of high post-meal spikes. Walking during this window acts like opening a release valve. Glucose is redirected into muscle tissue, where it can be stored as glycogen or used immediately for energy, preventing it from lingering in the blood and causing damage to blood vessels, nerves, and organs. This matters deeply for people over 50 because post-meal spikes are especially harmful with age. They contribute to inflammation, oxidative stress, and gradual injury to the lining of blood vessels. Over time, this damage increases the risk of heart disease, vision problems, kidney disease, and nerve pain. Walking does not erase these risks overnight, but it steadily lowers the daily exposure to harmful glucose peaks. Small reductions, repeated consistently, create meaningful protection over months and years. What is striking is how little effort is required to trigger this benefit. The walk does not need to be fast, long, or exhausting. Even 10 to 15 minutes at a comfortable pace is enough to activate glucose uptake in muscles. This makes walking accessible to people with joint pain, low stamina, or fear of intense exercise. The body responds not to intensity but to participation. It recognizes movement as a signal of use and rewards it with improved regulation. There is also a psychological dimension that quietly supports blood sugar control. When walking becomes part of the post-meal routine, it shifts the relationship between food and fear. Meals no longer feel like a gamble or a threat. They become part of a predictable cycle: eat, move, stabilize. This sense of rhythm reduces anxiety, and anxiety itself is known to raise blood sugar through stress hormones. By calming the mind, walking indirectly supports the same metabolic balance it creates in the muscles. Over time, muscles that regularly absorb glucose become more metabolically flexible. They learn to switch smoothly between using sugar and fat for fuel. This flexibility is a hallmark of metabolic health and is often lost in type 2 diabetes. Walking helps restore it gently, without overwhelming the body or triggering injury. It teaches the muscles to participate again in energy regulation, rather than remaining passive storage tissue. In this way, walking after meals is not just about lowering a number on a glucose meter. It is about restoring dialogue between systems that have grown distant from one another. Blood speaks, muscle listens, and insulin is no longer forced to shout. The body returns to a quieter, more cooperative state where energy moves where it is needed, when it is needed, with less resistance and less strain. As we grow older, the body undergoes subtle, continuous changes that are often invisible until they begin to affect our daily lives. One of the most significant of these changes is the gradual decline in insulin sensitivity. Insulin, the hormone that acts as a key to allow glucose into our cells, becomes less effective over time. This is not a failure or flaw, it is part of the natural aging process. Years of dietary patterns, sedentary habits, environmental stressors, and genetic predispositions all contribute to this shift. For people over 50 living with diabetes, this reduction in insulin sensitivity can feel like a constant uphill battle, a struggle to keep blood sugar within a safe range despite careful attention to diet and medication. Yet there is a quiet, remarkably effective strategy that taps directly into the body's natural mechanisms: walking after meals. When insulin sensitivity declines, glucose has a harder time leaving the bloodstream and entering the cells that need it most. This can lead to higher post-meal blood sugar spikes, fatigue, and a subtle stress on organs such as the heart, kidneys, and eyes. The pancreas, in response, produces more insulin to compensate, which can eventually lead to its own wear and tear. Walking after a meal introduces a different pathway for glucose to enter cells, one that is independent of insulin but deeply complementary to its function. The contraction of muscles during walking triggers glucose transporters to move to the cell surface, opening gateways that allow glucose to be absorbed efficiently. This process, repeated consistently, helps restore balance in a system that has grown resistant with age. The effect of walking on insulin sensitivity is both immediate and cumulative. A gentle stroll after a meal can lower blood sugar within minutes, reducing the peak that would otherwise stress the body. Over weeks and months, regular post-meal walks help muscles regain their responsiveness to insulin. The body begins to function more like it did in youth, not because aging has reversed, but because muscles are reminded of their natural role in energy management. This restoration is subtle but profound. It does not require extraordinary effort, expensive treatments, or drastic interventions. It requires consistency, timing, and respect for the body's innate intelligence. Aging also brings changes in body composition that influence insulin sensitivity. Muscle mass gradually declines, often replaced by fat tissue, particularly around the abdomen. This shift further reduces the number of cells available to absorb glucose and contributes to chronic inflammation, which in turn impairs insulin function. Walking after meals addresses both challenges simultaneously. The movement engages existing muscle, stimulates circulation, and preserves mobility. Over time, this simple practice can slow the loss of muscle mass and reduce visceral fat, supporting not only insulin sensitivity but overall metabolic health. Unlike high-intensity exercise, which can be intimidating or risky for older adults, walking is accessible, low-impact, and adaptable to individual ability levels, making it sustainable for long-term benefit. The timing of walking is equally important in restoring insulin sensitivity. Blood sugar rises most sharply in the first 30 to 60 minutes after eating. Walking during this period takes advantage of the body's natural receptiveness to glucose uptake, maximizing the effect of movement. This is why walking after meals is often more effective than walking at other times of day for improving insulin function. By creating a predictable routine, the body begins to anticipate the movement and respond more efficiently. This rhythm between eating and walking helps re-establish the delicate balance of energy flow, gradually improving the body's ability to regulate blood sugar naturally. Beyond the mechanical benefits, walking after meals has systemic effects that support metabolic function. Movement improves circulation, ensuring that glucose, oxygen, and nutrients reach tissues more effectively. It reduces stress hormone levels, which can impair insulin sensitivity when chronically elevated. It also enhances digestion, ensuring that nutrients are absorbed gradually rather than all at once, preventing sudden surges in blood sugar. These interrelated effects demonstrate how a single habit can influence multiple systems in the body, reflecting the integrated nature of human physiology. Insulin sensitivity is not an isolated process. It is influenced by muscles, nerves, hormones, and circulation, and walking gently orchestrates all of these elements in harmony. Consistency is the key to long-term improvement in insulin sensitivity. A single walk after one meal will have immediate benefits, but repeated practice compounds the effect. Over weeks, muscles become more responsive, glucose uptake becomes more efficient, and the stress on the pancreas is reduced. The body begins to remember the rhythm of movement, and insulin resistance slowly diminishes. This is not an overnight transformation, but a gradual, deeply biological restoration of balance. Each walk is a reinforcement of the body's natural intelligence, reminding cells of their purpose and capacity. Walking after meals also has a subtle psychological impact that supports insulin sensitivity. For many older adults with diabetes, monitoring blood sugar, counting carbohydrates, and managing medications can create anxiety and tension, which in itself can interfere with insulin function. Engaging in a gentle walk provides a period of calm reflection, a chance to move the body while easing the mind. This combination of physical and emotional support creates an environment in which insulin can function more effectively. The body and mind are deeply connected, and improvements in one domain often enhance the other, creating a positive feedback loop that reinforces healthy patterns. In this way, walking after meals does more than simply burn calories. It restores a natural balance that may have been disrupted by aging, lifestyle, or illness. It reinforces the body's ability to respond to insulin, helps regulate blood sugar, preserves muscle mass, reduces stress, and supports overall metabolic resilience. For people over 50, this is particularly important because every post-meal walk represents an opportunity to counteract the gradual decline in insulin sensitivity. Over time, this simple habit becomes a cornerstone of daily life, a gentle yet powerful practice that nurtures the body's capacity to manage energy, maintain health, and age gracefully. Stress is an invisible but potent force in the body, one that often goes unnoticed until its effects become tangible in ways that affect our health profoundly. For people over 50 living with diabetes, stress is not just a mental or emotional experience, it is a physiological event that directly influences blood sugar levels. Cortisol, the hormone released during stress, instructs the liver to release glucose into the bloodstream as a survival mechanism. This response, once vital for fleeing danger or escaping predators, becomes less useful in modern life, where stressors are rarely physical threats but rather deadlines, worries, and daily pressures. Even a quiet sense of tension after a meal can trigger a subtle spike in blood sugar, undermining the careful management of diet and medication. Walking after meals offers a remarkable, simple, and natural way to counteract this response and restore balance. The act of walking initiates a cascade of physiological changes that directly modulate the stress response. When the body moves, the muscles contract rhythmically, circulation improves, and the heart pumps steadily but gently. This motion signals the nervous system that the immediate threat has passed, encouraging the parasympathetic branch, the system responsible for rest and digestion, to become more active. As parasympathetic activity rises, stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline decrease, allowing the body to return to a calmer, more balanced state. For people with diabetes, this calming effect is not merely comforting. It has measurable benefits for blood sugar regulation, because lower stress hormone levels reduce the liver's tendency to release excess glucose into the bloodstream. The timing of walking is particularly relevant to this effect. Blood sugar often peaks within the first 30 to 60 minutes after eating, and this is also a time when the body may be more susceptible to stress-induced glucose surges. Engaging in gentle movement during this period allows the nervous system to shift gears, preventing stress hormones from amplifying post-meal glucose spikes. A 10 to 15-minute walk can be enough to redirect the body from a state of subtle alertness to one of calm activity, creating a window in which blood sugar is more stable and less subject to fluctuation. Over time, this repeated pattern strengthens the body's ability to manage both glucose and stress, reinforcing metabolic resilience and emotional balance simultaneously. Walking also impacts the psychological aspects of stress in a way that amplifies its physiological benefits. The act of moving after eating can provide a meditative rhythm, a moment of mindfulness in which the mind focuses on the pace of steps, the breath, or the surroundings. This simple attention redirects mental energy away from worry, rumination, or anxiety that might otherwise trigger stress responses. By combining mental and physical engagement, walking acts as a dual regulator. It supports the body's natural hormonal balance while also fostering a sense of mental clarity and control. For older adults managing diabetes, this is invaluable because stress and worry themselves can become chronic and self-reinforcing, creating patterns that destabilize blood sugar and reduce overall well-being. Physiologically, the calming effects of walking extend to multiple systems that influence insulin function and glucose metabolism. When stress hormones are elevated, insulin sensitivity decreases, meaning that cells become less efficient at absorbing glucose. By lowering cortisol through post-meal movement, walking indirectly enhances the effectiveness of insulin, allowing the body to manage sugar more efficiently. Additionally, increased blood flow from walking helps deliver glucose to the muscles, heart, and other tissues, further reducing the burden on insulin and helping to prevent excessive post-meal spikes. This combination of improved circulation and stress reduction creates a powerful synergy that stabilizes blood sugar in a natural and sustainable way. Beyond its immediate effects, walking after meals establishes a pattern of behavior that reinforces both mental and physical resilience. The nervous system responds to regular signals of calm and movement by adjusting its baseline activity. Over weeks and months, this repeated practice lowers overall stress reactivity, meaning that even unexpected challenges produce smaller surges of cortisol. For someone managing diabetes over 50, this gradual improvement can be transformative. The body becomes more capable of maintaining balance, and the mind becomes less prone to anxiety, creating a reinforcing cycle in which physiological and psychological health support one another. There is also a subtle social and environmental component to consider. Walking outdoors, if possible, exposes the body to natural light, fresh air, and sensory variety, all of which contribute to reduced stress and improved mood. Even walking indoors, in a quiet hallway or around a home, provides a rhythmic, controlled environment that helps the nervous system settle. The repetition of movement establishes predictability, and predictability itself is a cue for safety, signaling to the brain that the immediate environment is secure. This reduces the activation of the fight or flight response and allows digestion, metabolism, and glucose regulation to proceed more smoothly. Importantly, walking after meals does not require intensity or endurance to be effective. High-intensity exercise can sometimes increase cortisol temporarily, especially in individuals who are unaccustomed to vigorous activity or have underlying health concerns. Gentle, consistent movement, however, strikes a balance. It is enough to stimulate circulation, muscle contraction, and nervous system engagement, but not so intense as to trigger additional stress. This makes walking particularly suitable for older adults managing diabetes, offering measurable metabolic benefits without creating additional strain or risk of injury. Walking also nurtures a sense of agency over health, which in itself reduces psychological stress. Knowing that a simple, achievable habit can help regulate blood sugar after meals provides reassurance and reduces the helplessness that can accompany chronic disease management. This sense of control feeds back into the body's physiological systems, further stabilizing hormone levels and supporting insulin sensitivity. It is a gentle reminder that the body and mind are deeply interconnected and that small, consistent actions can produce meaningful outcomes. Over time, walking after meals becomes more than a physical activity. It becomes a practice of balance and attunement. The body learns that post-meal energy can be directed productively, that stress does not need to dictate metabolic outcomes, and that calm movement is a pathway to stability. For diabetics over 50, this is a subtle but powerful form of regulation, one that integrates physiology, psychology, and lifestyle in a way that medicine alone cannot replicate. Each walk reinforces the body's ability to manage glucose, dampen stress, and maintain homeostasis, creating a pattern of health that compounds over time and supports well-being in a holistic, sustainable way. Movement is one of the most profound ways we can care for the body, not because it burns calories or strengthens muscles alone, but because it maintains the delicate systems that keep us alive and resilient. For older adults, particularly those living with diabetes, movement after meals has effects that extend far beyond the immediate regulation of blood sugar. Joints, which have borne decades of weight motion and stress, are supported through gentle walking. The cartilage and synovial fluid in the knees, hips, and spine are nourished by activity, which stimulates circulation and reduces stiffness. Sedentary behavior, by contrast, allows joints to stagnate, leading to discomfort, inflammation, and the gradual loss of mobility that so often accompanies aging. Walking after meals offers a rhythmic, low-impact way to maintain flexibility, strengthen surrounding muscles, and preserve functional movement without causing strain or injury. The heart, too, benefits quietly from this gentle post-meal exercise. Cardiovascular health is intimately linked to blood sugar regulation, as chronically high glucose can damage blood vessels over time. A short walk increases heart rate modestly, promoting improved circulation without overtaxing the system. Over time, the heart becomes more efficient, pumping blood with less effort while delivering oxygen and nutrients more effectively to tissues. This combination of cardiovascular support and glucose regulation helps mitigate the risk of heart disease, which is disproportionately high in older adults with diabetes. Walking after meals is a rare intervention that addresses multiple interconnected risks at once, supporting the body's most vital organ while simultaneously stabilizing metabolism. Confidence in one's body is another dimension of health that walking nurtures, though it is less often discussed. Many people over 50 who manage diabetes feel uncertainty about movement, fearing falls, joint pain, or hypoglycemia. Yet gentle post-meal walks offer a safe, predictable opportunity to engage the body, reinforcing the sense that movement is possible and even restorative. Each step taken reinforces physical ability and resilience, creating a subtle but powerful feedback loop. As confidence grows, individuals are more likely to maintain other health-promoting behaviors, from stretching to social activity, further enhancing overall well-being. The psychological benefit of knowing that the body can respond positively to intentional movement is intertwined with the physical improvements, each amplifying the other. Digestion itself is also influenced by walking in ways that extend beyond the immediate processing of a meal. When the body moves, peristalsis, the rhythmic contraction of the intestines, is stimulated, aiding the passage of food through the digestive tract. This not only supports nutrient absorption but also reduces bloating discomfort and the sense of lethargy that often follows a meal. For older adults, whose digestive efficiency may decline with age, walking after meals serves as a gentle cue that promotes proper functioning of the gastrointestinal system. Improved digestion complements the regulation of blood sugar, as nutrients are absorbed at a steadier pace, reducing sharp spikes in glucose and supporting overall metabolic harmony. The nervous system benefits from post-meal movement as well. Walking provides sensory input and rhythmic stimulation that help coordinate the balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic activity. The sympathetic nervous system, responsible for fight or flight responses, is gently tempered, while the parasympathetic system, responsible for rest, digestion, and recovery, is enhanced. This dual modulation reduces stress hormone levels, supporting both mental calm and physiological regulation. For individuals over 50 managing diabetes, the nervous system's ability to maintain balance is crucial, as dysregulation can amplify glucose fluctuations, disrupt sleep, and influence mood. Walking provides a low-risk, high-reward method to harmonize these complex internal systems without requiring advanced techniques or equipment. The musculoskeletal benefits of walking are not limited to the joints themselves, but extend to the surrounding musculature that stabilizes posture and movement. Core, hip, and leg muscles are engaged with each step, helping maintain strength and coordination. This is particularly important for older adults, for whom muscle atrophy and reduced balance are common. Walking after meals, even at a slow pace, ensures that these muscles are activated consistently, preserving mobility and reducing the risk of falls. The combination of preserved joint function and strengthened muscles creates a synergy that supports independence and quality of life, reinforcing the body's capacity to perform daily activities with confidence. In addition to these physical benefits, walking after meals nurtures a subtle sense of routine and rhythm, which can be stabilizing for the mind. Predictable movement after eating reinforces a daily structure that can support sleep, mood, and cognitive function. The act of walking offers time for reflection, awareness of surroundings, and a gentle mindfulness that is restorative for the nervous system. This mental clarity, in turn, supports adherence to healthy habits, reinforcing the connection between action and outcome. The psychological dimension of walking is therefore inseparable from its physiological impact, each reinforcing the other in a continuous cycle of benefit. For diabetics over 50, the importance of consistency cannot be overstated. Benefits are cumulative, subtle at first, and compound over time. Each post-meal walk strengthens joints, maintains circulation, stabilizes blood sugar, enhances digestion, reduces stress, and builds confidence. The result is not immediate transformation but gradual restoration of balance and resilience. The body begins to anticipate the movement, muscles respond more efficiently, the cardiovascular system adapts, and the mind develops a sense of trust in its own capacity. Walking after meals becomes a practice of stewardship, a simple act that nurtures multiple systems simultaneously, embodying the principle that health is an integrated, dynamic process rather than a collection of isolated interventions. Movement, when approached with consistency and mindfulness, becomes a form of care that reaches into nearly every aspect of well-being. It is not exercise in the sense of effort or exertion alone, but a dialogue with the body, a practice that honors both its fragility and its capacity for adaptation. For older adults managing diabetes, walking after meals embodies this philosophy perfectly. It is accessible, low-risk, deeply restorative, and scientifically grounded, offering tangible benefits to joints, heart, digestion, musculature, and mental state simultaneously. Each walk reinforces not only physical health, but also trust in the body's ability to respond, adapt, and thrive, creating a foundation for holistic well-being that extends far beyond the immediate steps themselves. Consistency is one of the most overlooked but profoundly influential factors in maintaining health, particularly for individuals over 50 managing diabetes. The body does not respond to isolated actions in the way a machine might. It thrives on repeated, rhythmic engagement that reinforces its natural systems. When walking is performed after meals consistently, it is no longer merely an exercise or a choice. It becomes a signal to the body, a gentle cue that shapes metabolism, circulation, and hormonal balance over time. Each step taken after a meal tells the muscles, the liver, and the pancreas that energy should be directed efficiently, that glucose will be used purposefully, and that the body can rely on a predictable rhythm of movement. This consistent practice transforms the relationship between activity and metabolic control, creating a pattern in which health emerges from repetition rather than intensity. For older adults, the importance of this regularity cannot be overstated. The systems that regulate blood sugar, including insulin signaling, glucose uptake by muscles, and liver glucose production, are all influenced by repeated exposure to movement. Muscles learn to respond more effectively, insulin sensitivity improves, and post-meal spikes are reduced as the body begins to anticipate activity as a natural part of the digestive process. Consistency allows these physiological systems to adapt gradually, reinforcing pathways that have been weakened by years of sedentary behavior, metabolic stress, or age-related changes. Without this repetition, the benefits of walking after meals are diminished, because the body cannot internalize a pattern that occurs sporadically or unpredictably. Consistency also reinforces mental and emotional resilience, which is tightly linked to metabolic regulation. When walking after meals becomes a predictable habit, it reduces anxiety surrounding glucose management. Meals no longer feel like moments of uncertainty, and the body is less likely to respond to stress with cortisol-driven glucose surges. The nervous system begins to expect and accommodate the routine, lowering baseline stress levels and improving the efficiency of insulin signaling. This integration of mental and physical consistency creates a feedback loop. The calmer the nervous system, the more efficiently the body regulates blood sugar, and the more predictable the routine, the greater the sense of control over health outcomes. Moreover, the long-term effects of consistent post-meal walking extend beyond blood sugar management. Cardiovascular health, for instance, benefits from regular engagement of the heart and circulatory system. Gentle walking increases blood flow, enhances vascular elasticity, and encourages the heart to pump efficiently, all without imposing excessive strain. Over months and years, these repeated periods of movement contribute to improved endurance, reduced risk of hypertension, and protection against cardiovascular complications that are common in older adults with diabetes. The cumulative impact of daily, moderate walking is far more significant than intermittent bouts of intense exercise because it works in harmony with the body's natural rhythms rather than against them. Musculoskeletal health is similarly enhanced through consistency. Joints that are engaged regularly maintain lubrication, flexibility, and stability, while surrounding muscles retain strength and coordination. For older adults, this preservation of mobility is critical to independence, fall prevention, and overall quality of life. Walking after meals ensures that joints and muscles are activated predictably, preventing stiffness, supporting alignment, and reducing discomfort. The body thrives on regular stimulation, and the gentle, repetitive motion of walking becomes a form of maintenance, reinforcing structural integrity in a way that sporadic activity cannot. The cumulative effect of consistent walking also supports digestive function, which in turn influences glucose regulation. Regular movement stimulates intestinal motility, promoting smoother passage of food and more controlled absorption of nutrients. This steadiness prevents sudden surges in blood sugar and enhances overall metabolic balance. As the body internalizes this predictable routine, digestion becomes more efficient, hunger cues become clearer, and energy distribution is optimized. The consistency of post-meal movement is thus intimately tied to the body's ability to process and utilize nutrients effectively, reinforcing multiple systems simultaneously. Consistency also strengthens the psychological connection to health behaviors. When walking after meals becomes habitual, it is no longer a chore or a decision point, it is an integrated part of the day. This habitual nature reduces the cognitive load associated with managing diabetes, allowing attention and energy to be directed elsewhere, while the body continues to benefit from predictable movement. Habits, when reinforced, are powerful because they create structure without requiring constant conscious effort. For older adults, whose energy and cognitive bandwidth may be limited, this automaticity ensures that the benefits of walking are delivered reliably, day after day, without additional stress or planning. Importantly, consistency in walking after meals cultivates a form of biological memory in the muscles and metabolic systems. Each session of movement reinforces signaling pathways, enhances glucose uptake, and trains the body to anticipate and manage energy loads efficiently. Over time, this leads to improved insulin sensitivity, more stable post-meal glucose levels, and a reduction in the physiological stress placed on the pancreas. The body learns through repetition that energy will be used, not stored unnecessarily, and that movement is an expected, beneficial part of daily life. This learned efficiency is a hallmark of metabolic resilience and a key factor in long-term health for individuals with diabetes. The cumulative nature of consistent walking also has a preventive dimension. By maintaining stable blood sugar, supporting cardiovascular function, preserving joint and muscle health, and reinforcing mental calm, this simple habit reduces the likelihood of complications associated with diabetes and aging. Over months and years, small, repeated actions compound into meaningful protection. What may appear as a short, leisurely walk after a meal becomes a cornerstone of daily self-care, an intervention that is as gentle as it is effective, as simple as it is transformative. Ultimately, consistency transforms walking from a single act into a dialogue with the body. It allows the systems responsible for energy regulation, circulation, stress management, and mobility to operate in synchrony. For older adults with diabetes, this repeated engagement fosters resilience, reduces risk, and creates a sense of mastery over one's health. Each walk after a meal is a reinforcement of the body's natural intelligence, a statement of trust in its capacity to adapt, respond, and thrive, and a tangible example of how small, sustained actions can produce profound, long-lasting benefits across multiple dimensions of well-being.